much for your invitation here. Your Excellency, Dr. Marjan Cencen, my friend Ashok Barat, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, the theme of the discussion in terms of the change business environment in Indian industry couldn't have come at a better time. Over the last 6 months, business leaders have reorganized supply chains, set up remote operations, and made tough financial decisions. The world is anxiously awaiting an effective COVID-19 vaccine that can be readily distributed. Until then, the priority is to re energize organizations, to act rather than react. History has shown that every crisis presents an opportunity for industry and organizations indeed to emerge stronger. Without minimizing the devastating impact of COVID-19, one cannot really ignore the sight of business opportunities, both on the digital and technological front, which have emerged and are emerging right in its wake, even in an environment of poor demand visibility and low capacity utilization. The global economic contractions resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic have far exceeded those of the global financial crisis that ended in 2009 and have occurred at a much faster rate, hitting all sectors and many of the world's largest employers. As companies plan for various outcomes in 2021, what companies seeking resilience must do is to rebuild for the longer term, take thoughtful actions to balance growth, margins, and optionalities. No one knows when this pandemic will end. So companies have to constantly redefine and alter their strategies in these uncertain times in order to emerge as leaders out of this crisis, indeed to survive out of this crisis. The time has come for companies to evolve in a world where change or disruption is absolutely certain, but the exact shape and nature remains uncertain. Things will never be the same again. Let's be clear about that. Business continuity will have to be looked at from an inclusiveness angle. Its impact on employees, the impact on customers, impact on vendors, industry segments, but also with a strong environment on environmental issues, social issues, governance and compliance issues, which are becoming increasingly critical as stakeholders and shareholders view their investments in companies. So scenario building and business actions will have to be focused on these pillars and viewed holistically on an end-to-end basis. Eventually things will go back to normal, just that we will have to change the definition of normal. We don't know what that will be. And as the economy resets to the new normal, demand recovery will be unpredictable. I think we can be clear about that. Even across sectors, it will be uneven. New product categories will emerge, new business models will emerge, new customers will emerge, old customers may fall away. And often there will be a slow return in some part of the business to the pre-crisis levels. We can see that already here in India as we view the return to normality, if you will. So while a few sectors will face unusually strong demand, leaders in many industries must deal with periods of structural overcapacities. Those companies will face the painful need to right-size the cost base and capital of their operations, supply chains and organizations overall, and to transition a lot of their fixed costs to variable costs wherever possible. Flexibility will be the new norm. To stay competitive in this new business and economic environment will require new strategies and practices. Technology will be a critical strategic enabler and driver, not just a source of cost efficiencies. An area where companies have already adjusted well is using technology to address the changing work environment to stay competitive. Organizations that have successfully responded to the crisis have actually accelerated the digitalization of their product life cycle and supply chains and of their internal operations by 3 to 4 years. And they expect most of these changes to outlast the pandemic. I'd like to draw your attention to two critical areas which will be significant for industries in India. Firstly, digitalization. This will undoubtedly play, and we have seen over the last 6 months, a center stage role. Today, technologies such as big data and artificial intelligence have made us realize the importance of digital data and its identification as a first step for moving up the digital value chain. Additive manufacturing, 3D printing really highlights the way in which efficiency gains relating to industry can be achieved by switching to printing of machinery using lighter weight material. Another area that will change will be new business models will emerge. Indeed, a lot have emerged. The onset of e-commerce has completely disrupted the way business is done in the world, and indeed here in India, which has been a front runner in a lot of these areas. Will yield positive returns on investment and payback periods as short as 2 to 3 years. For the capex averse, however, new business models are emerging, such as platform as a service that requires no license, no software, no capex, no extra people in the factory, just a sharing of the benefits once the performances have been met. The main barrier to the uptake of efficient technological options are often the upfront costs of alternative technologies and processes, and therefore there is a need for a stronger policy with fiscal incentives to support new business models to scale this digital manufacturing program. The notion of a tipping point for technology adoption or digital disruption isn't new, but the COVID crisis is a tipping point of historic proportions, and more changes will be required as the economic and human impact, particularly in India, evolves. The thing that makes the current environment more exhilarating and terrifying for every business is that no one is really sure what's next, or even if that answer will be the same that you can apply everywhere. Constant innovation will be the key. Ladies and gentlemen, digitalization is not an option today. It's a necessity to remain competitive. It's a necessity to stay ahead of the curve. Few manufacturers can pass up the opportunity to improve profitability, mobilize their employees, or ignore new business opportunities. I believe digitalization programs will play an important part in keeping Indian manufacturing competitive over the next decade. While the regulatory environment and the financial environment is still in the making, the pure business logic is already convincing today. So I look forward to the discussions during the course of the evening. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak at this very special occasion.